and welcome to the very first episode of Books Love Art. My name is Jody. I also go by Girl Greg Arts, and this is a brand new series that I'm starting where I'm combining my absolute love of books and reading with my illustrations, and so I hope you really enjoy it. I'm really excited about the book I ended up picking to do the first video on because it was a complete surprise to me. I have other images, other pictures and illustrations coming down the pipeline that I thought would be before this, but I fell so wholly in love with this book that it won the top spot. And the book is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, and it's a contemporary adult romance book, which is not what I normally read. It's my favorite non-normal genre that I read because I am a science fiction and fantasy girl. But I was so happy to find this romance novel. It made me so happy, and yeah, I'm really excited to get to the review for you guys. So The Kiss Quotient is a completely charming and steamy contemporary romance about Stella, a successful econometrician and high-functioning autistic woman who decides to hire an escort to help teach her how to excel at sex. She fears that due to her autism, she is terrible at dating and therefore terrible at sex, since logically, one eventually leads to the other, and now that she's 30, her mother is putting pressure on her to settle down and start a family. Enter Michael, a fashion designer who is moonlighting as an escort to help with his family's financial troubles. When he meets Stella, she is nothing like what he expects. He can't help but start to fall for her intelligence, unique ideas, and downright sexy body. Unable to understand why such an amazing woman needs help with sex or getting a man in general, he agrees to go against his one-night-only policy and takes Stella on as a student. While the premise may seem oversimplified and frankly overdone, I must argue that keeping the plot simple is what allows the Kiss Quotient's characters to shine. Helen Huang, who is on the autistic spectrum herself, brings the reader into the mind of Stella, how she logically thinks through situations, the battle between her anxieties and her desire to overcome them, and how she copes or can't cope with the world around her. I was extremely grateful that there wasn't any insta-love, but instant attraction between Stella and Michael, and loved that as she got to know him more on a personal level, she was able to understand that she loved him. I also loved how in control Stella was over her own destiny. She is a fully developed person before she meets Michael, and that doesn't change after meeting him either. It was her choice to commit to loving Michael, even though she knew logically he could never be hers, and I respected her willingness to meet the future as pragmatically as possible. Michael, on the other hand, was a bit of an emotional mess, and I am here for it. Well, about 80% of it. Michael, now the main provider for his family after his father ran off with their money, put all of his dreams on hold to take care of his mother during her cancer treatments. The rising medical bills are what lead him to become an escort. It was fun to get inside Michael's thoughts as he tried and failed to put barriers between him and Stella, to keep things professional. And I also loved how Hung wrote how Michael viewed Stella, never seeing her as autistic, but as this amazing person who constantly surprised him with her consideration and consistency, two things he had stopped believing other people possessed. Though when he does realize that she is autistic, that does not change his view of her in any way, which is really refreshing. He loves all of Stella, which is great. Michael was also amazingly patient and would never do anything without Stella's consent, never pushing past her boundaries and stopping when she needed to. It was refreshing to read sex scenes between two consenting adults. And boy, those sex scenes. Since this is an adult romance, the sex scenes were graphic, warning if you are not into that kind of thing, and steamy. A lot of boy pleasures girl, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and a heck of a build-up. Personally, romance novels for me feel few and far between where I care about both the romance and the sex. I've read a ton of romance novels where I was there for the plot and cringed at the sex, and vice versa. So imagine my happiness when the Kiss Quotient made me care about both. I wanted Stella and Michael to be good together, both in bed and out of bed. So I was definitely invested in these characters. The only negative I have about the book is that the plot loses steam at the end. The overall story follows some good old will they, won't they tropes that, while not surprising when they happen, are a little disappointing. For two characters who become very, very good at communicating, to let a misunderstanding from things left unsaid or said poorly to be their big won't they moment is eh. I also am not a fan of Michael's random moments of machismo and need to protect Stella, the caveman instincts. This leads to a few plot points that feel out of character. Also, there's a random Stella plot point that I understand putting in because it's cute, but it was introduced way too late to make it her thing. No spoilers, but it's a bit blaring when it happens. Yet despite these little missteps, The Kiss Quotient is most definitely my favorite romance of the year so far. I know it came out in 2018, I read it in 2019, so it counts for this year for me. Anyway, it's worth reading for the character interactions alone. I felt so engaged in Stella's moment-to-moment life thanks to this being an Own Voices book. I admired the hell out of her for her determination not to be defined by her struggles, and kind of felt like a big sister, cheering Stella on and commiserating with her as the story went along. I loved watching Michael fall more in love with Stella the more he got to know her, the way the reader does. And honestly, I would recommend The Kiss Quotient to anyone, but especially if you're like me and you're in a romance reading rut. It will definitely restore your faith in love, guaranteed. So as you can tell, I adore this book. And on Goodreads, I believe I gave it 4 stars. Really, I would give it 4.5. It's excellent book. But I want to talk a little bit about the illustration. So the scene I chose to depict is this very, very, very cute romantic scene where Michael basically takes Stella on a date, and he takes her to an ice cream parlor, and it's adorable, and there's this whole thing about chocolate chip ice cream, and I loved it, and I just had that scene stuck in my head for days, and it took over everything else I wanted to draw. And so that's the scene that you've seen me working on. I'm actually a very slow painter, so this is gonna be very interesting for me to get me to paint faster and to create videos for you. And I really hope that you've enjoyed this. As I said, this is a whole new thing for me, getting used to writing reviews and recording myself and everything. So I'm going to try and get better as we go, but heck, it's like if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. So this is where we're going with this. So thank you guys for watching, and please feel free to subscribe, do all the thingies. You can also read my full review on my blog, which I will put in the description, as well as you'll be able to see the final picture. If you guys are interested in prints and things, I think that's something I'm going to do a little bit later. We'll be able to buy prints, and yeah, check me out on all the social medias, and I look forward to you guys. And if you have any suggestions to make this better, as I said, I have a lot of ideas, but I wanted to get this done. If you're going to be a book expo this year, I will be there as well. And again, I will see you guys next time. And I look forward to, doing some more art, reading some more books. Gonna be great.